Good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So recently I've been reading a new webtoon called Lookism, and it kind of reminds me of another webtoon that I think I might have talked about, just a little bit. And that webtoon also has gotten updated quite a bit since I made that video. Okay, so we got Lookism and Weak Hero. I just want to see, I think this would be fun for me if I were to compare the main characters, Gray Yon versus Daniel Park. Okay, so for this fight, I'm going to lay down some ground rules. One, Gray is not allowed to have prep time, because if he did, he'd be able to beat basically everybody. Honestly, I think he could even beat Gun if he really felt like it. I'm also going to give Daniel his superior body. To be honest, I think even inferior Daniel could probably beat the shit out of Gray if they were, in a boxing ring or, a blank white void. That's also a thing. I'm going to have this take place in a city setting. I'm not going to give Gray any of his weapons or prepare at all, but I will give him plenty to work with, so let's just say it's in a city, there's a lot of things he could use, a lot of strategies he could employ, and let's get into this. So, Daniel's going to win. It's no contest. Daniel could beat Gray. Okay, to give Gray some credit, I think, here's how I think the battle would turn out. Gray would, let's say Daniel and Gray fought for whatever reason, and then I think Gray would be able to get some hits in, stabbing him with pens, hitting him in the head with a brick, stuff like that. Then Daniel will realize, oh shit, this kid is actually serious. And then from there, Daniel will just beat him. I think he's too strong, I think he's too fast, especially in his superior body. He has more fighting experience as far as Lookism goes. Yeah, this might be a little bit unfair because, Lookism was way farther along its story than Weak Hero is. But even still, Gray has been shown to take a beating, but I just don't think he can take anything Daniel can dish out. I mean, have you seen what he can do? And also just the scaling in Weak Hero, the power scaling in Weak Hero is nothing compared to Lookism, but I'll get to that later. And even then, even if somehow Gray still has the upper hand against Daniel, Daniel could always just go Ultra Instinct and, basically just kill him. There's nothing Gray can do. Alright, now that we got the fight out of the way, I just want to talk more about Weak Hero and Lookism too, just in an unscripted stream of thought kind of format. There's one thing I'd like to take back, which I mentioned in my first video. In that video, I mentioned that Gray doesn't really have a personality, and it's sort of to the detriment of the story. Seeing the story go through, I like what they're doing with his character and what direction they're going with it. And I can see why now he had to be like this. Or I always sort of knew why he had to be like that, but it gave me a new appreciation, these recent chapters. I liked the way they handled Steven. He was pretty good. I liked him. I don't think he's gonna wake up. I don't think he's coming back, honestly. And even if he does, it's probably gonna be at the very, very end of this story. I don't think he's gonna be relevant for quite a while. Lookism is a pretty interesting series. It has action, it has romance, it has social commentary, it has drama, and it weaves between genres so seamlessly. I like both webtoons, and they're both really, really different, and you could argue that they're not really comparable. But if I had to compare them, I think Weak Hero has better dialogue, or at least funnier dialogue. I'm not sure if it's a translation issue, or if that's just how it's supposed to be. But there's just some funny lines. Is that all you know how to do? Just throwing mindless haymakers? You really don't know how to adapt, do you? So you'd better just catch these hands! That's not even how you use the phrase. Interesting son of a bitch, aren't you? You're not even fast. And here I thought Homa just got fucked because he's an idiot. So you got some hands on you, huh? Real talk. You idiots always had Miles Jewel's dick in your mouths. But you know what's in that fucker's head? Nothing. All that idiot's made of is inferiority. Jesus fuck. Well, you'll get to know me soon enough. I'm Yoon Jang's Hyper Oboe. Rowan Imp. Can't we talk about that for a minute? Okay, so earlier in the story, Rowan says, did you know that the infamous guillotine Charles Kwok still has to eat with a bib around his neck after getting smashed by the White Mamba? He had a better nickname right there, the Guillotine, and he decides to name himself Hyper Oboe. What the fuck? Weak Hero just has a better script, and it uses pop culture references really well. Whatever magic that was in the script of Weak Hero that made every single character sound like a real teenager just didn't work for Lookism. I honestly, what happened? Do you think this is some Harry Potter shit? Fighting on behalf of your friends? Is that like a thing in Harry Potter? I've never read or watched it, so like, was that a major theme? Go drink some more milk, kiddies. You're in my fucking way. Now that I've found the phone with Zoe's phone in, I'm gonna go home now. Ah, fuck, I got blood on myself. Little brats only listen when you beat them around. This is fun, ha ha ha. It's like playing a game, although it takes forever. Although it feels like it'll take forever to level up. Great job, Logan. You're doing great, buddy. Lookism has better art, though. It has a more detailed style and a more vibrant color palette. Weak Hero has good art, too, but its style is more simplistic. When it comes to comparing fight scenes, though, that's when things get interesting. I have been trying to record this section of the video for like 30 minutes, and I, for the life of me, cannot improvise. So I'm going to look at my notes. Lookism is a lot more intimate when it comes to fight scenes. It has a lot more close-up shots, frames are more claustrophobic and cramped, and we could really see the impacts of every person's hit, and also the reactions people have when they get hit. Weak Hero has a lot more wide shots, and has a more zoomed-out perspective. It's a matter of preference. I personally like Weak Hero's action scenes more just because it's easier for me to tell what's going on. There are some times where Lookism will have a fight, and I'll just be like, what is going on? I think Lookism has a better story than Weak Hero, just because it has a much better world, and it goes between genres, and does them all pretty well. Weak Hero is a good story too, but it's a lot simpler. I respect Lookism more because of how much it tries to do, but there's something about Weak Hero that just appeals to me more. Like, it's simple, but, like, it's more my kind of simple. Lookism also just has better character development to me. Daniel, Zach, Vasco, they're all three-dimensional characters that develop over the course of the entire series. Not to say that Weak Hero doesn't have any character development, but it's a lot more on the background, and more so in the subtleties of things, which could be to your preference. Lookism's development is more obvious and in your face, but I would be lying if I said they weren't damn amazing. Whereas an example of Weak Hero's development isn't stuff like Gray slowly becoming warm into the gang, or they'll do this thing where they just sort of tell you what a character's whole deal is. I like the interaction between Weak Hero's characters than Lookism's, because like they seem more like bros to me. Like the way they treat each other, like it's just a lot more wholesome to me. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing Zach, Vasco, and Daniel all like talk to each other and hang out, but Weak Hero, I think it like their interactions are just done better. They feel more like friends, and I enjoy watching them together. So to summarize, basically, Lookism I think is better crafted than Weak Hero, but Weak Hero just sort of appeals to me more. I thought this video would be fun to make just because Weak Hero and Lookism have this weird sort of similarity between them. Also, has anyone else noticed that there are a lot of webtoons that reuse a lot of the same tropes? An action series in high school where the main character is weak or appears to be weak but is actually secretly a badass? Two guys pine over girl. Slice of life webtoons based on couples. Well, okay, one thing they have that's different is that the power scaling in these two series is completely different. Lookism is just so much more broken. Like, everyone knows how to fight, everyone specializes in a martial art. The villains in Lookism is an actual crime syndicate, where, like, Weak Heroes is just a gang. Well, I mean, like, whether it be Lookism or Weak Hero, both of these villains are, like, fucking absurd. These guys are in high school, and, like, they basically, like, have political influence, and it's like, really? I could suspend my disbelief. I don't know anything about Korea or gang culture, much less Korean gang culture, so... Both series have interesting ways in doing fight choreography. Lookism is more martial arts based, and for lack of a better word, anime-esque. It's all about training yourself to become better and stronger, learning more techniques so you could win. Weak Hero is a lot more methodical. It's more about coming up with a strategy that suits your specific way of fighting. And, you know, it works for both. Every character has their own unique style of fighting that reflects their personality. Sometimes it's a little weird, though, like Gerard, Rowan, can you guys seriously not throw a punch? I also just found that their characters are kind of similar in a way. Ben reminds me of Vasco, Zach reminds me of Alex, Jay reminds me of Gerard. Nobody really reminds me of Daniel in Weak Hero. Gray kind of reminds me of Eli Jang, just in how, like, they fight dirty and, you know, use weapons and stuff. He also kind of reminds me of Jiho in that regard, too. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that. What I find interesting is the opposing messages Weak Hero and Lookism convey.
Now, on the surface, they seem pretty similar. Both focus on the importance of friendship and the idea of bettering yourself through physical improvement, as well as thinking critically, albeit in different proportions. The difference comes with the overall theme of the narrative. Jiho is portrayed as a slimy, cheating bastard, and it is exemplified in his fighting style, and in a lot of ways, he is depicted as the inverse of Daniel Park, who is an honest, hardworking, strong individual. In Weak Hero, it's a lot more Gray. Gray is also a hardworking and honest person, but obviously he's a dirty fighter. But the reason he is because he gets bullied by people who abuse their power. And let's be honest, everyone is a dirty cheater in Weak Hero. Even the other protagonists, as much as they are good guys, they do underhanded things sometimes. Honestly, if Gray saw how GL fought, he probably would be totally supportive of that. He probably wouldn't respect him, but still. In Lookism, the message is life is unfair and the world cheats, but you have to work hard and live honestly to overcome that. While in Weak Hero, the message is life is unfair and the world cheats, so you must cheat back.
But yeah, Jiho, I honestly thought he was gonna have a redemption arc, like after the fake bank account story, cause like he helped Zach when he was fighting against James, and so I was like, okay, cool, Jiho's finally gonna like, become a better person and whatever. But no, he doesn't. He goes to jail, and I'm like, what the fuck? Was that the original plan all along, or was he gonna have Jiho redeem himself, and then he realized, wait, I have a better idea, and then all that. So now we have this Jiho. And do I have anything to say about the biggest mystery of them all, Daniel's second body? Well, you see, I have no idea. Like, the mystery behind Daniel's second body is done really well, and I honestly have no idea where it's going to go. I think that James Lee was an actual person, because when Daniel was investigating, like, his backstory, or that identity's, like, history, he goes to an abandoned school and a mostly abandoned town, and there's, like, trophies of like James Lee everywhere. Like that's such a weird attention to detail in kind of an arbitrary area that didn't really need to be done if you were trying to cover it up. So I think that James Lee was an actual person, but other than that, I have no idea what's going on. I have some theories about Weak Hero 2. I don't think it'll be Gray that defeats Donald Knott. I think it'll be Ben, just because from a narrative standpoint, it wouldn't make any sense for Gray to beat him. Because Gray's whole story arc is learning how to, open up again and like let his friends into his life and learning to be a kinder, warmer person. Ben's story is all about overcoming his fears and defeating the person that's been making his life a living hell ever since middle school. A lot of people would probably disagree and say that Jake G and Ben Park are going to fight because of how similar they're compared to all the time, but I actually think it would be more interesting if Alex Go was the one to fight Jake. Alex Go at this point in the story is always like living under the shadow of his friend Ben, so it would be more satisfying if he actually pulled off a win against someone who is said to be just as good as Ben. And also I just want to give my boy Alex a win just for once. Colton doesn't count. Colton is free real estate. One thing I do like about Weak Hero's story is how Ben and Gray are duo antagonists. Like Gray has his own story and he's our main character, but Ben is the one who like puts everything together. He's the leader of the group and the main force fighting against the villains. Gray doesn't really care about anything. I think it's funny to think that Ben is probably a protagonist in another webtoon, but then he got sucked into Gray's story and now has to like share the screen time with him.
Miles Jew is also a figure in the series that I feel is guaranteed to become relevant again. He's mentioned way too much and has too much of an ominous presence to not be important. Probably going to join the main group at some point.
And with the whole Donald Nah versus Gray thing, honestly, as much as I don't want this to happen, it would be kind of interesting to see, like, what if Eugene turned evil and that'll be Gray's final boss? Because, like, that's Gray's whole story. It's learning how to open up again and make friends. And if Eugene turned evil, it would be the ultimate test. Did Gray actually change, or is he just going to revert back to how he was, like, when he did with Bryce? But yeah, that's basically most of what I wanted to talk about. This video is I could already tell this video is going to be a fucking mess. Is there anything else? Who's a bigger scumbag, Jiho or Bryce?